Liana thinks she's a broke, abandoned wife, but Mr. Hawthorne knows a version of her life she can't remember. What secret past is she about to discover that will change everything? Down from the ceiling. Machines hummed next to her, their blinking lights the only proof that time had passed while she slept. Her fingers twitched on the sheets. She was alive. Barely. For a few seconds, her mind was empty. Then fragments returned, splitting pain in her skull, the floor rushing up toward her, someone shouting her name. Then nothing. Instinctively, she turned her head toward the visitor's chair. In her mind, she saw Mason, her husband of 5 years, curled up there, red-eyed from crying, refusing to leave her side. At the very least, she expected flowers, a card, some sign of concern. The chair was perfectly empty. No blanket, no jacket, no cup of cold coffee. The room looked like no one had stepped inside in days. A faint layer of dust coated the windowsill and the glass of water on her bedside table. Next to the glass lay a folded scrap of paper torn from a spiral notebook. Her chest tightened. She reached for it with a trembling hand. The moment she saw the handwriting, Mason's crooked scrawl, her stomach dropped. She unfolded it anyway. "Pay the hospital bill yourself. I'm done carrying dead weight. Don't look for me. Mason." The words blurred as her eyes filled. There were a few more lines, each one colder than the last. She was a burden. All she did was drag him down. He refused to waste his future on a broken wife. No apology, no explanation, just a final cut. The note slipped from her fingers and floated to the floor. Liana broke. Her sobs tore through the sterile room. She had no parents, no siblings, no backup plan. She'd worked extra shifts, saved every dollar, cooked every meal, always telling herself they were building a life together. And with one piece of paper, that lie dissolved. She was still wiping tears with the back of her hand when the door opened. The footsteps that entered were steady and unhurried. A quiet, expensive cologne cut through the hospital smell. Liana turned her head. A tall, dark-skinned man in a charcoal suit stood beside her bed, eyes calm and sharp. "Miss Liana," he said, in a low, steady voice, "my name is Mr. Hawthorne. Your husband just walked away from a diamond to go pick up a pebble." Liana stared at Mr. Hawthorne, confused and defensive. He didn't look like billing staff, and he definitely didn't act like a stranger. His posture was as respectful as if he were speaking to royalty, not a woman in a wrinkled hospital gown. "If you're here about money," she croaked, "I don't have any. You can talk to my husband." Her voice broke on the last word. Mr. Hawthorne's gaze dropped briefly to the note on the floor. His jaw tightened just for a second. "I'm not here to collect a bill," he said, taking a seat by her bed. "I'm here because your life was stolen, and I promised someone I'd return it." He started 5 years back. Liana had been in a serious accident, head trauma, confusion, fragments of memories shattered like glass. She'd been admitted to a small, overrun clinic with no ID on her and no one claiming her. In the middle of that chaos, a man named Mason appeared. He presented himself as the Good Samaritan. He said he found you, stayed with you, helped you. When you woke up, disoriented and scared, he was the only familiar face. With no clear memories of her childhood, no documents, no phone, she'd clung to him like a lifeline, and he used that. He told you the same story over and over, that you had no one, that he saved you, that without him, you'd be nothing. Liana's heart raced. That's exactly what Mason had drilled into her. "You owe me your life." Mr. Hawthorne opened a slim tablet and tapped a few buttons. He turned the screen toward her. Photos filled it. There she was, healthier, brighter, dressed in designer clothes, laughing with an older man with silver at the temples, standing in front of a glass tower with the logo of Crest Dominion Group shining above. "That man is Elliot Crest, founder of Crest Dominion Group. and your biological father." Liana's breath hitched. The name Crest dominated the city. Real estate, shipping, tech, you name it. He spent years and a fortune searching for his daughter after you disappeared. He passed away 2 years ago. I was his chief advisor. Before he died, he made me promise. Find my girl. Protect her. Give her back what's hers. Next came bank records. The joint savings account she thought was theirs, emptied while she lay in a coma. The transfers led straight to a woman named Tessa, her so-called best friend, the one who used to cry at her table and borrow money. Mason didn't just leave you, Miss Liana. He drained your savings and walked away believing you were worthless. What he never knew is that you're the sole heir to Crest Dominion Group. Everything she thought she knew about herself cracked open. After a long night filled with shock and quiet planning, Liana woke up different. The pain was still there, but it no longer owned her. She washed her face carefully, wrapped her hair in a neat scarf, and sat as straight as her weak muscles allowed. She was going to play a role one last time. Behind the privacy curtain, Mr. Hawthorne stood ready, a small camera in hand. They'd agreed. Let Mason talk. Let him reveal his true face and capture all of it. Soon, heavy footsteps thudded down the corridor. The door burst open without a knock. Mason strode in, a deep line of irritation between his brows. On his arm, clinging like a trophy, was Tessa. She wore a flashy outfit and a designer bag that Liana knew she'd never been able to afford on her salary, unless someone else funded it. Mason didn't ask how Liana felt. He didn't ask if she was in pain, or even acknowledge she'd just come back from the edge of death. He simply dropped a thick red folder onto her lap. "Let's get this over with," he said. "I have better things to do than babysit drama." Liana's fingers shook as she opened it. The divorce papers were written to erase her life. She waived all rights to any shared assets, agreed to no support, no claims, nothing. In Mason's version of their marriage, she had contributed nothing and deserved even less. Tessa smirked openly. "Honestly, Lee, you should be grateful he's even doing this properly. Just sign and let him live his life." Liana let tears gather in her eyes, this time on purpose. In a fragile voice, she asked, "So that's it? There's really no chance for us?" Mason laughed, loud and cruel. "Why would I go back to a sick, broke woman who can't keep up with me? I took out the trash. I'm not dragging junk back into my life." The words sliced deep, but Liana let them settle, memorizing every cruel syllable. She signed. The pen scratched slowly across the paper, each letter of her name feeling like a quiet promise to herself. This is not the end, it's the opening move. Mason snatched the folder, checked the last page, and grinned at Tessa. He even kissed her cheek right in front of Liana, just to twist the knife. They turned to leave. "Wait," Liana said softly. Mason paused, glancing back with bored impatience. "Remember this moment. You're the one throwing me away. Don't you dare come crawling back later saying you made a mistake. My doors will stay locked." He scoffed, shrugged, and left, slamming the door. The curtain slid back. Mr. Hawthorne stepped out, the camera light blinking. "How do you feel?" he asked. Liana wiped the last stage tear away. "Lighter," she said. "The trash just took itself out. Now, get me discharged. I'm ready to go home. My real home." Leaving the hospital this time was different. No bus stop, no cheap rideshare, no counting coins in her head. A sleek black sedan waited in the VIP lane, complete with a uniformed driver who bowed and called her Miss Crest. The car carried her through busy streets into an exclusive gated neighborhood. When the tall iron gates of the Crest estate swung open, flashes of memory rose unexpectedly. Her child voice echoing in the garden, the splash of a central fountain, and a man's warm laugh. House staff lined up in the entrance hall as she stepped out. "Welcome home, Miss Liana," they said in unison, heads bowed. It took all her strength not to collapse again, this time from emotion. Mr. Hawthorne didn't let her sink too deep into nostalgia. He reminded her gently, "There's a lot to reclaim, and a lot of people who need to be reminded who you are." First came the physical reset: doctors, a nutrition plan, stylists fixing the damage stress and neglect had done. Then came the wardrobe. A walk-in closet full of clothes her father had chosen, still tagged, as if he'd believed she would walk through the door any day. She chose a long, simple dress that quietly radiated authority, and a silk wrap that framed her face. In the mirror, she didn't see Mason's exhausted, obedient wife. She saw Elliot Crest's daughter. Then she stepped into her father's old office, and the real transformation began. Mr. Hawthorne laid out files from Crest Dominion Group, ownership charts, profit reports, internal memos. One subsidiary's name jumped out at her: Mason's company. "What's his role again?" she asked. "Senior project manager. Ambitious, but more show than substance." They dissected his projects. Liana's sharp mind quickly spotted inflated budgets, buried errors, and activities that danced on the edge of corruption. View by view, her fear was replaced by cold clarity. The next morning, while Mason bragged to his colleagues about his promotion and upcoming celebration, every screen in the building flickered. An internal announcement from Crest Dominion took over. New majority ownership. Surprise executive review. All key managers report to the boardroom. Mason fixed his tie, seeing it as his moment to shine. He pushed open the boardroom doors without knocking. The directors sat stiff and silent. At the head of the table, someone was seated with their back turned. Mr. Hawthorne stood beside the chair. His usual ego-filled introduction. No one smiled, no one nodded. The chair slowly turned. Liana met his eyes. His confidence evaporated in an instant. He stammered, insisting there must be some mistake, that security needed to remove her. Mr. Hawthorne spoke firmly. "This is Liana Crest, majority shareholder of Crest Dominion Group and legal owner of this company." Liana picked up his Star Project folder and let it fall dramatically to the floor. "This file is as sloppy as the way you treated me." She listed every manipulated figure, every buried complaint. Audit documents landed on the table with quiet finality. Then came his options: disciplinary termination with a crushing fine, or demotion to warehouse staff until every cent of the penalty was worked off. By the afternoon, Mason was in a scratchy uniform hauling boxes under flickering lights, sweating while the same employees he used to belittle walked past. His fall had just begun. Even with Mason's public downfall and Tessa's humiliation in the lobby when she tried to cause a scene, one question still knotted Liana's thoughts. Why had she really collapsed? The doctor's explanation, stress and exhaustion, didn't sit right. The headaches before the coma, the strange taste in her evening drinks, the sudden crash. Something was off. One stormy evening, Mr. Hawthorne entered her office carrying a black folder. His normally calm face was grave. He said quietly, "We rushed some tests through a private lab. The results are in." Inside were toxicology reports. Liana's blood work from the coma contained traces of toxic compounds, minute doses similar to those found in certain rodent poisons and banned chemicals. Tiny amounts, over time, building up until her body finally shut down. Her fingers pressed into the edges of the pages. Next came photos from a private investigator, Tessa entering shady shops, receipts for unregistered chemicals, plastic containers found in her trash bearing warning labels. Then, almost worse than that, a copy of a life insurance policy. Insured, Liana Crest. Beneficiary, her devoted husband, Mason. Value, enough to live comfortably abroad for years. Suddenly, those special night drinks Mason insisted on preparing didn't look like care, they looked like premeditation. Mr. Hawthorne's
We walk into a police station right now, and this is enough for attempted murder and insurance fraud." Liana stared out at the rain-streaked windows. The hospital note, the drained accounts, the cheating, the poisoning. Somewhere in the middle of all that, the old her would have broken again. This version of her didn't. "Police," she said at last. "But first, I want them for what they are."
Thus, the reconciliation dinner was born. A hotel suite, a beautifully set table, Liana in an understated gown. Mason and Tessa arrived in borrowed, wrinkled clothes, convinced they were walking into a second chance. Mason begged. Tessa pretended remorse. Liana listened, then signaled. The lights dimmed. A screen descended. Footage played. Tessa tipping powder into Liana's drink, Mason stirring it and joking about how this will solve everything once the insurance paid out. Their own smiles condemned them. When the lights came back on, they saw what Liana had assembled. Key investors, board members, some of her father's old partners, journalists with cameras rolling, and police officers waiting patiently at the back. They turned on each other instantly, each blaming the other. It didn't matter. The evidence spoke louder than their panic. Before the officers led Mason away in handcuffs, Liana slipped the laminated hospital note into his pocket. "You left me to die alone," she said softly. "Now you get to live with what you did." 6 months later, Mason sat in a cramped prison cell, serving a long sentence for attempted homicide and fraud, partially paralyzed from a minor stroke. No visitors, no status, no Tessa. She was locked away in another facility, her beauty replaced by bitterness. Liana, meanwhile, stood on the terrace of Crest Dominion's tower, overlooking the city at sunset. Under her leadership, the company had stabilized and grown. But the achievement she cherished most wasn't in the financial reports. It was the Crest Foundation for Women, the organization she'd created to help women escaping abusive partners, financial control, and emotional manipulation. It offered legal aid, training, housing, and seed money for new beginnings. Mr. Hawthorne joined her with 2 cups of tea. "Happy?" he asked simply. Liana smiled, truly smiled. "Yes, because my happiness doesn't come from being chosen anymore. It comes from choosing myself and helping other women do the same." She lifted her cup toward the horizon, like a toast to every person who'd ever been written off as dead weight, and still found the strength to rise. Have you ever trusted someone who turned out to be your biggest lesson? Tell me which city you're listening from in the comments. If Liana's journey spoke to your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe so I can keep bringing you more powerful life stories.